Does Joe Mixon continue his hot play for the Bengals against the Colts? And how about Zack Moss on the other side? And is this the week Austin Ekeler finally breaks out of his slump? We break it down with our running back and quarterback rankings for week 14, only on Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. We're your destination to become the smartest fantasy football player in your league. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your fantasy football team every day as well. I'm one of your co-hosts, Vinnie Iyer, and when I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Hey, I'm Michelle Magdziuk, researcher at NFL Network and fantasy analyst for NFL.com.
All right, Michelle, we are now flipping the page officially all the way to week 14. We're going to break down our running back and quarterback rankings, the players we like, players we don't like. Maybe a few disagreements and debates, of course, coming your way on today's show. Of course, we will look at the rest of the rankings tomorrow at wide receiver and tight end, then look at some flex play sleepers and price picks because of the week there. So that's what we have on the docket here for our week 14 analysis. Before we do that, make sure you're checking out Prize Picks. It's the way that you can get in on the action, and go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. You can use the promo code LockedOnNFL for first deposit match up to $100. That's right. It's the easiest way to play daily fantasy sports. And again, we'll have our Prize Picks picks of the week coming on the show on Friday. All right, Michelle, let's dive into the running back rankings. Zack Moss, it's your guy, so I'm going to bring him up first on the show. We both actually have him at number 4. He was underwhelming last week, but I couldn't understand that at all. I mean, I guess they were kind of in a shootout, right? They went back and forth passing the ball. The Titans decided to play run defense again like they were early in the season, so it was definitely one of the most disappointing performances of week 13, but he's getting the Bengals this week. They allowed a pretty good game, including a touchdown to Travis Etienne. He could have had 2 there as well. So this seems like a great rebound spot for him. And then on the other side, Joe Mixon, I did not like him at all against the Jaguars. Go figure. He has one of his Joe Mixon explosion games, the 1 or 2 that happen every season. So talk to me about both these guys. I have him a little bit higher. Mixon at 5, you have him at 12, but we're both really high on Moss at number 4.
Yeah, I like both the guys this week, especially Zack Moss. He was right. I feel like he was at the cusp of having an amazing game, or like an amazing game with 2. He had a lot of carries around the goal line. It just is either he got stopped at the 1-inch line, and then, they went with a different play after that, or he just didn't get in, right? But he had 95. He played on 95% of the Colts snaps. Like, this is his backfield when Jonathan Taylor is gone, and it's all to himself. He had 19 carries. You keep playing Zack Moss, and like you said, it's a really good matchup against the Bengals. So I'm not worried about him after that bad week. And with Joe Mixon, I mean, he's been a top 5 running back in 2 of the last 3 weeks. So it's coming along for him. It does seem like they're going to lean on this run game, even with Jake Browning, exploding on what was it, Monday Night Football. It's still, they leaned on the run game a lot, right? With not only Mixon, but also Chase Brown. But Mixon still got 19 carries. He saw 7 targets. So that's really promising that Browning was, checking down to him a lot. 6 receptions, 49 yards. And the Colts have allowed the 4th most fantasy points per game to running backs this season. We saw Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears just look really great against the Colts last week. So I really like Joe Mixon again this week. I have both Moss and Mixon ranked as a top 5 guy.
Yeah, those are good calls. I do have one guy at 5 versus you here. It's Isiah Pacheco, and partly because, look, the running backs that are getting majority of touches are not not a plenty, I'll say. There's only a few of these guys getting it. And Isiah Pacheco is now getting it with Jerick McKinnon on the shelf. He was ejected last week. That's not ideal against the Packers, but he was running really well before that moment, right? He just looked fantastic. He's running angry. He's running hard. And let's be honest, the Chiefs need to lean on the running game a lot more. Their passing game has been limited by their young receivers not getting downfield. And Bills, look, they're not the same run defense when they don't have Matt Milano. They miss him in coverage. I think they need to get right and get a win. And I think that's feeding Pacheco. So that's why I like him. Again, I know he's not exciting because you kind of need that touchdown. He doesn't do a lot in the passing game. But I think this is a blow up game for him. I think the Chiefs are going to just say, hey, throw to Travis Kelce, run Isiah Pacheco. Let's do what we're capable of doing that works here this week.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills are a great matchup, right, for running backs,
Yeah.
allowing 4.6 yards per carry, fourth most in the league. And Pacheco's been a top 10 running back each of the last 2 weeks. I am at running back 15, so a little bit down from there. But I mean, if you look at the rest of the year before these last 2 weeks, like 15 is a plenty, nice and fair ranking for him. So I'm going to keep him right around that range. I'm not going to get crazy and put him up too high, but you're obviously plugging in Isiah Pacheco if you have him. It is that really nice matchup, and he's getting a ton of work. And like you said, there's just not a lot of those running backs going around getting all that work. Let's talk about a guy who I don't even know what to say about him. It's Austin Ekeler. I mean, the last 3 weeks, running back 25, 24, and 36. You drafted him with one of your top 5 picks, right? He was a first round pick in fantasy drafts. You did not expect him to have, he has either been a top 5 running back or 24 finishes a 24 running back or worse on the week. Like, there's been no middle in games. It's either been great or terrible. And now he gets the Broncos, who are the best defense to go against if you're running back for fantasy or just in real life as well. Do you think he bounces back this week?
Yeah, I think this is the week he gets it done. I mean, some of the matchups he's had, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Patriots, Ravens, those are not easiest matchups, especially good against good scheming teams, especially when they can take away him, right? I think last year what happened, a lot of the receivers got hurt there, so Austin Ekeler had to be a bigger part of the offense. Again, he went nuts with his touchdowns. Now, the same thing is materializing this year with Keenan Allen being the one healthy, reliable guy, but it's a different offense, right? Kellen Moore needs to scheme him open a little bit more. And it's kind of weird. Tony Pollard has gone down without Kellen Moore, and then Austin Ekeler has gone down with Kellen Moore. So I don't get it here. Like, you think that with Pollard, they're similar type backs, that he was going to be able to get both of them going here in fantasy. So look, I think this is a week for Ekeler. They need to trust him quite a bit. It's a good matchup for him and the passing game overall in terms of the short to intermediate routes, right? Justin Herbert needs to do that. Don't force the ball downfield. Use what's there against the Broncos defense here. So I think he comes back to life. I'm not saying he blows up necessarily, but at this rate, Michelle, we'll take something like 6 catches. We'll take about 85 to 100 yards from scrimmage. We'll take a shot at a touchdown, right? That's all we want right now out of Austin Ekeler. We're not going to suddenly say he's going to be the elite asset we drafted him to be, but come on, he has to be at least an RB2 and half and full point PPR, which is not happening. So I'm going to say Austin Ekeler has a great week, and I'll say play him in DFS a little bit because he's down and people might not be on him, but this is a time to do so because, like you said, he either has a really bad week or a really great week, and I would lean towards the latter this week.
Yeah, so would I. We both have him ranked as a top 10 running back this week. So we're believing he has a bounce back. Now, one guy we have a difference in rankings, and I think I'm too low on him. It's Devin Achane. I have him at running back 12 going up against the Titans this week. You have him down at running back 21. He has actually finished as a top 5 fantasy running back in every game that he's actually played, right? There was the 2 games that he played in, but not really. He had 1 rushing attempt in the first game of his career. And then, in that week 11 when he got hurt right away. But in all the rest of the games, he has been a top 5 fantasy running back, which is wild. He has 2 more top 5 finishes than Alvin Kamara has top 10 finishes this season. Kamara has just 3 top 10 finishes. Devin Achane has 5 top 5 finishes. Insane. Actually 4, sorry. But insane. But yeah, I'm playing him, and I think my RB12 ranking is too low.
Yeah, I mean, there's the volatility, right? I mean, at some point you cannot sustain this pace. And the one thing that gave me a little bit pause to drop him was what the Titans run defense did with Zack Moss, right? If they contain one back there that was getting the majority of touches, you have Raheem Mostert there as well. I mean, Mostert's been getting by pretty much with scoring here. I mean, he scores pretty much every week. Achane is the guy that they put out to get the big plays and the chunk runs and all that. So we'll see. I mean, the usage is just a little bit unpredictable, right? I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do in this game with getting him in there. Do they get him in the game early? Does it need to be a blowout if it's
Well,
close?
it's
Do we see
going to
him?
be a blowout.
Yeah.
That's what we
Well, we
know. The
think so.
Dolphins are going to destroy the Titans at home.
Yeah, it was kind of weird last week because he was coming back from the injury and like, why would you just put him out there with a big lead, right? But he seems to be like the weird, we want to pull away type of closer, right? He's not, we're going to run out the clock closer. It's like, we're going to score a couple more 30 to 50 yard touchdowns on you to put away the game. So it's interesting. The usage is unique and very explosive for a back that sees very few touches. But look, we both like him this week. I mean, it just comes down to how much he scores. I mean, he'll score at least once and just how much volume he gets. So RB12, RB21, I mean, pretty close. He'll probably finish somewhere at RB16. Who we're kidding. That's usually
I
what
think
happens.
he'll finish as RB5 or RB1 as he normally does.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. I just feel like you can't just count on that every week.
Yeah,
like
I
that's
know,
why
I know,
I'm hedging my bets a little bit, right? And because the Titans are going to show up and a little bit with the run. I think you're going to have to beat the Titans with Tyreek Hill in the passing game quite a bit here this week. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, just a little bit of volatility there. But again, no matter what you do here, he has to be in your lineup no matter what size league you're in this week. And that's the bottom line. And enjoy the results. And hopefully he stays healthy and stays on the field for you as well. Before we get into our next tier running backs, maybe some tougher decisions, some guys we actually would want to sit versus the elite backs. We'll do that here right after we hear from one of our fine sponsors. All right, everyone. I'm excited that we have a new sponsor on the show. That's right. And it's time to give some great holiday gifts. And if you're looking for a meaningful gift that your loved ones will actually use and enjoy, well, there's a great thing for you to check out. It's a skylight frame. And with Skylight Digital Picture Frame, it's awesome because it's one of those things that's going to keep those memories going and it's going to mean something a little bit more. And you might have someone who's had a new baby or have young children that have had a great year and want to kind of recap that year. And it's great if you're looking for your parents or your children, anything that brings together family. It's going to help you with the Skylight Digital Frame. So it's hard to find the perfect holiday gift, but this is really awesome for anybody in your family. Skylight is a touchscreen photo frame that you can send photos to straight from your phone. They appear in seconds. You can even preload photos before the box is open. It's great. It's a perfect gift for anyone. Again, any parents, grandparents, spouse, they're going to love it. And it's going to be something that is not just used one Christmas and goes away. It's going to be there forever. It looks great in your house and you can put it anywhere. And it's a lot better than social media. It's good to have this thing that you can treasure forever. And there's satisfaction guaranteed always with every Skylight Digital Frame. And you can expect top ratings as always with one of the best companies out there. Check it out as a special limited time offer for our listeners. Get $15 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/lockedon to get $15 off your purchase of a Skylight frame. Just go to skylightframe.com/lockedon. That's Skylight Frame, SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/locked-on there. Check it out today as a unique and memorable Christmas gift this holiday season. All right, Michelle, it is time to continue the show in a moment here. We'll look at the rest of the running backs and where they rank, and then we'll get into our quarterbacks in our final segment. Quick programming reminder on the network. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, Michelle, let's dive into some backs that we might have a few questions about this week. Let's start with James Cook. This was an interesting one. I'm not feeling it against the Chiefs, and a couple reasons why. What did I say last week? I said they struggle with power backs that are a little bit bigger, like A.J. Dillon. And look, he didn't have the big fantasy day at all, but they struggled, right? Their run defense did not look very good. And if Dillon got a little bit more volume, we would have seen him have a big day. But James Cook is a smaller, shiftier back. and they've got some speed. I think they'll get a little bit healthier linebacker this week. So that's why I have him down at RB28. I'm just maybe not a big James Cook fan at all, just the way he kind of runs and his fickle usage. So I think that's it. But you have him at RB16. So I think he's one of those guys. He's not exciting to play, but you might have to, right? Because of volume.
I'm more excited to play James Cook than Isiah Pacheco. I mean, I think
Okay.
they're around the same exact ranking for me. I have Pacheco actually. I have him at RB15. I have Cook at 16. Since they've shifted over to the new OC, I mean, he's getting a lot of work, right? It's 17 carries in week 11, 16 carries in week 12, 7 targets the last time they played, and that was, against the Eagles where they had to score a lot. And you would envision in this game there's going to be a lot of passing and he'll get the targets. But he's had 100+ scrimmage yards in each of the last 3 games. Chiefs are allowing 4.8 yards per carry to running back, second most in the NFL behind only the Broncos. And the reason why they're not allowing a ton of fantasy points this year to running backs is because they're not giving up touchdowns to running backs like at all. But guess what? James Cook doesn't score touchdowns anyways, especially on the ground. That's not what you're plugging him in for. You're not like, oh, I hope he scores a touchdown. That's probably not going to happen unless he catches one, right? But he is getting the yardage, he's getting the targets, and he gets the big play. So I am happy to play James Cook this week. 2 guys, though, I don't know what to do with them. I feel better about one than the other, but let's talk about Thursday Night Football. It's going to be a horrendous game. I'm so sorry. But Steelers versus the Patriots, you got Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. They get the Patriots, who the Patriots are the toughest run defense this year, allowing just 3.4 yards per carry to running backs. Are you starting either of these guys?
Yeah, I think you can start both. This is how I look at it. Najee Harris is more than RB2. Jalen Warren might be more of a flex play. And there are different avenues to their production. Again, I wouldn't fade maybe Jalen Warren in standard leagues and maybe look in a different direction. But I think they're going to have to use Warren quite a bit in the pass game. Mitchell Trubisky's in there. So they've got to change up their offense a little bit. I think strangely, I like the guys that are the dump offs and then the guys downfield, and that would be George Pickens in this game, strangely, because I think that's kind of Mitchell Trubisky. He's going to look for the deep ball. He's got a big arm, and the Patriots do give up deep balls. We saw what Jalen Hyatt did a couple weeks ago. That is one of the weaknesses of their defense, the way they scheme it up. So that's why I kind of like Pickens here to stretch the field. That's going to help Jalen Warren a little bit underneath. And we know that Mitchell Trubisky doesn't have a lot of chemistry with some other receivers on this team. So I think you'll see a lot of dump offs to Warren. He's going to be under pressure quite a bit here. So that's where Warren is going to get his points. I think Harris, they're going to straight up pound it, right? You still have to do it. I know the Patriots are not giving up a lot on the ground, but that's the best avenue for the Steelers to win this game. Play off their defense, correlate to that, and do that. So I think Najee Harris, he's run better in recent weeks. Let's check the Isaac Seumalo injury. But I think when you look at that, I think Harris has the better game. But I think I would say Harris and Warren, you might have been stuck playing either one based on their volume here. But the guy that I'm definitely playing, and I'm not feeling stuck playing at all, is Ezekiel Elliott on the other side. I mean, he's going to dominate touches here. He got 21 touches last week when he came in after Ramondre Stevenson was in the game early and looked pretty good. So the Patriots offensive line is still pretty good in terms of run blocking. So I think Zeke is a good play. I like him better than Harrison Warren because you don't know that split sometimes here. But yeah, I just love volume backs, and all of a sudden we have another one in Zeke.
Yeah, Zeke is my favorite out of this group. I do have them. I have Zeke and Najee Harris ranked similarly, like both high or low RB2s, right in the running back 20-ish range. So I like them both this week, but I do feel best about Zeke's usage. I just have a trivia question for you. All right. Which running back has the most 20+ yard runs this year in the NFL? There's 3 guys tied with the most.
Okay. I'm going to say one is the guy we talked about earlier, Pacheco.
No.
Okay. I thought he had a few bursts, but okay. Then I'm going to go Devin Achane.
No, it's about Raheem Mostert, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Najee Harris.
Okay.
Isn't that wild? No, everyone's like, oh my God, Jalen Warren's so explosive. Najee Harris has 7 runs of 20+ yards this year, which is tied for the most. And he also has 11 runs of 15+ yards, tied for third most in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey has the most at 13, Derrick Henry at 12, and Najee Harris is next with 11. So he's been very explosive. this year. People are not giving the credit that he
He's
needs.
good. I think people just don't understand this a little bit, the way the offense wasn't helping him, and now he's got the blocking on the left side, and all these things have changed, right? The way they approach it. But the Steelers just don't take first-round backs unless it's Rashad Mendenhall. Sorry about that. If they don't have the talent to get the carries here to dominate. So I think they're going to pound Harris as much as possible. So I do like Harris better than Warren, but I like Elliott based
Yeah.
on the situation and the matchup better than both of those, if that makes sense. Now, this is a guy that's really hard. Now, I have a decision league. Like I have Raheem Mostert and Dave Montgomery. So they're in. Then I have Ezekiel Elliott, but I don't think I'm even sweating this because I look at Alexander Mattison. He's my fourth back. They're playing the Raiders this week. The Raiders are as good as it gets for running back matchup, but I'm just not sure.
I would
I
much
think I
rather
would
play
play him.
Ezekiel Elliott over Madison.
Yeah, I think you're just taking a shot here, right? That Mattison is going to randomly score his first rushing touchdown of the season, that Ty Chandler's not going to be involved, that the quarterback situation is going to play in his favor. So it's a lot, right? That you need to go right here for Alexander Mattison. You have to hope he doesn't fumble and then be put on the bench. So look, he's an okay flex play this week. I mean, the matchup is just too good to ignore, but I really don't want to play him if I've got some better options.
Yeah. So this is the thing. I'm okay plugging him in if you really, really need someone. Like we're going to talk about these two last guys here at running back. Roschon Johnson, he has to play against the Lions, right, at home. Or Keaton Mitchell, the Ravens rookie running back against the Rams. Both of those are pretty difficult matchups for running backs, and you don't know what their usage is going to be like either. So I do think I would lean Alexander Mattison among those three guys if those are your choices.
Yeah.
But let's say you're just deciding between Roschon Johnson or Keaton Mitchell. Which one are you going with? Because like the Lions are surprisingly like a super, super hard matchup for running backs this year. And then Mitchell, you just don't know the usage. And the Rams are pretty good at stopping the run.
Yeah, between Mitchell and Gus Edwards, I'm not sure how they're going to break it down because things have been twisting and turning with that, right? I mean, we saw last week. I mean, we thought Devin Singletary was the guy, then they pivoted back to Dameon Pierce. So I think these teams are going hot hand based on the matchup, the style of runner as well. There's so many things. The game script could also be unpredictable, right? Last time the Bears were leading against the Lions and took a comeback. Now they could be trailing, and that actually might help Roschon because he's a pass protector and he's the guy out there. But we're not 100% sure on the game script. The Rams could also make it tight against the Ravens, right? I mean, their defense is decent here. Where I don't think they just can run Keaton Mitchell wild in this game. So if I had to pick one based on what team is favored, where the backfield touches might be and the snap share that I feel a little bit more comfortable with, it would be Keaton Mitchell. It's pretty close between these two guys, but I think I would avoid playing Roschon if I don't have to play him. We'll see about Dante Foreman and Khalil Herbert. There's just less competition for touches, and it's a better spot at home, I think, for Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I would be on the Mitchell side. It's risky, but at least you know he
Not
has high upside with the big plays that he could have. We're gonna move over to the quarterback position here to close out this show in our last segment. But before we do that, let's talk about a couple more of our sponsors. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by Prize Picks. Do you love playing daily fantasy? If so, you should try out Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. How does it work? You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they go more or less than their prize pick projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. At Prize Picks, you aren't competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. Prize Picks adds a ton of excitement to the sports viewing experience. Vinny and I will, of course, always go through our favorite prize picks of the week on Friday's show. But if you want to get into action early, my favorite pick for Thursday night's game between the Steelers and the Patriots is running back Ezekiel Elliott to have more than 59.5 rushing yards. To place that pick or other picks for this week's slate of games, all you have to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. That's at $150 if your team wins. That means if you trust the Steelers at home to beat the Patriots on Thursday Night Football, you can just place a $5 bet on the Steelers money line, and if they win, you will get $150 in bonus bets. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. To get in on the action, all you got to do is sign up by visiting FanDuel.com/locked on and enjoy the NFL season. Again, that's FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Vinny, I did not enjoy going through quarterback rankings this week. I will say that. They are very, very hard. I mean, obviously at the top, it's easy. Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, done, right? So easy. And I also thought it was pretty easy to put Brock Purdy up there, right? We'll talk about him in a second. But the rest of them, it did feel a little bit harder. I felt okay about Tua at home against the Titans. Oof. And then the rest of the matchups or just the players have been inconsistent, right? So let's talk about Brock Purdy here. I have him as my quarterback 5 this week. You have him pretty high too. You have him at quarterback 7. We're saying he's just going to continue being great because that's what he has been for the last month now. And it's a home game, and he averages 23 fantasy points per game at home this season. He's a great play.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Tua, I mean, great matchup. I mean, Tyreek Hill can get Tua to fantasy relevancy in most weeks. That's usually what happens, right? And you look at then Lamar Jackson. He is great at home against NFC opponents. He just destroys NFC opponents, and every time he sees them, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the pressure. It's not a rivalry game, and he goes nuts. So, yeah, those guys are there, and we have Purdy, obviously. So we have the same overall top 7. Now, Patrick Mahomes is just interesting, right? A lot of people are just down on him. This is when I think when we're all down on him, that's when Patrick Mahomes comes through, right? I mean, we've seen it in Super Bowls. We've seen it in the middle of seasons. And I think they got to make some adjustments here, Michelle. I think the biggest adjustments I mentioned, just feed Travis Kelce the ball, get Noah Gray out there, get 2 tight ends, trust the guys, run the ball, open things up. Look,
stop guarding Justin Watson every 5 seconds.
Yeah,
please.
Look, Noah Gray's good, man. Just get these tight ends involved. Throw to Kelce, get him going downfield. They had 1 pass to him completed in the second half last week. That's unacceptable. He's like a game-changing player. And you look at the Bills matchup, I look at it, Kelce on the back end. This could be a blow-up game, right? They don't have Matt Milano. They can't cover the middle of the field. They're actually pretty good in the slot against Rashee Rice with Taron Johnson. So this should be a Kelce game. If it's a Kelce game and he can get a 3 for here in the end zone, that means Mahomes can have a big game as well. So that's why I couldn't drop him. Another plus, I've always talked about the resistance, right? I mean, if we look at Tua, I'd put him behind Mahomes because do we expect the Titans to be competitive? Do we expect Achane and Mostert to get theirs? Yeah, they're going to get theirs. So that's the difference, right? That's why I love this Prescott, Hurts, Allen, Mahomes. This is what we want here before we get into the fantasy playoffs. So I love those matchups. And now with Brock Purdy, let's just hope get him some touchdowns, unlike the last game against the Seahawks. Don't let McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel get all the rushing love. So if he does that, he's going to be fine. I love him this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what about Jordan Love? Because I want to just point out, I have him ranked higher than you this week. Jordan Love is your boy, but I have him ranked at quarterback 9. You have him at quarterback 12. The reason I have him at quarterback 9, it's because he's been really good the last couple of weeks, right? But also, I don't love Justin Herbert this week. I don't really love him any week. I know he's had some huge weeks, but I don't know how to feel about him against a division rival, against the Broncos, who've been a better pass defense as of late. And then you have CJ Stroud in a terrible matchup, Goff in a terrible matchup. So this is what's pushing up Jordan Love a bit for me because those guys are pushed down. But do we feel good about him going? Is it at home or in New Jersey?
It's in New Jersey. It's on Monday Night Football as well. So there's that. Okay, so you have that. And look, I like Jordan Love, but if you look at my other rankings there, I have Justin Fields and Jared Goff. I think that's going to be a sneaky high scoring game. It was the first time. Let's remember that. These two guys went back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, but this is in Chicago instead of in a dome.
Yeah. Jared Goff has actually been better on the road. You know it this year that the narrative is not there. And then you have Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson. Look, I think that game is also going to have some points, right? And I kind of use that law of resistance. If there's going to be resistance and both quarterbacks have to keep passing to keep up with each other, it's usually a better environment. I'm not sure Tommy DeVito is going to have what it takes here to stick with Jordan Love in this game. I think, keep in mind, the Packers defense, I thought they played really well last week against Patrick Mahomes. I think this could be just hand the ball to Saquon Barkley as much as you can, Giants, and try to stay in the game. But the other thing is, it gives me a little bit of pause, right? Christian Watson is hurt now, so I'm a little bit worried about that, right?
Yeah,
He's losing a guy
true.
that is a big source of his big plays and touchdowns, but still top 12, right? I mean, I just don't think he's going to be involved in a shootout where I think it could definitely happen with those other guys this week, just based on all the offensive talent on the field. So that's how I look at it in that way of looking at Jordan Love. Now, one guy that was really tough, and I couldn't drop him too far down. I think this is pretty low for me at 14. CJ Stroud, and you have him at number 12. And I don't know why I said it like Gus Johnson, but maybe because he did a lot of Ohio State games. But you look at that matchup, and the Jets, they've contained Jalen Hurts. They beat the Eagles. Let's not forget that. They contained Patrick Mahomes. They contained Josh Allen. So Stroud going to go up there and suddenly just solve this defense. I'm not so sure, but I would still play him over a bunch of other of these like fringe dudes. But all those guys above, including Jordan Love, I think have better matchups than Stroud, and you might have to fade him this week.
Yeah, if Stroud can get it done in this game, like let's say he puts up,
Yeah.
250 yards and a couple touchdowns, just give him offensive rookie of the year now. You don't have
Yeah.
to wait until the award show. Like just give it to him now. The Jets are allowing just 13 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season. It's also going to be an outdoor game, obviously in the cold. Well, actually, it's not even going to be that cold. It's supposed to be 60 degrees in East Rutherford on Sunday, but very, very high chance of rain. So that makes it even worse for the passing game. If there's going to be a high chance of rain against the hardest secondary in the league, that's brutal for Stroud. And I get what you're saying, that you probably might still play him, but I don't expect much from him. But I don't think so your other options are going to be guys like Jake Browning against the Colts or Gardner Minshew against the Bengals in that same game. Are you brave enough to start either of those guys over Stroud this week? 'Cause I don't know if I am.
Yeah, people always say that question. Would you rather lose with CJ Stroud or win with
Yeah.
Jake Browning or Gardner Minshew? The bottom line is I'd rather win, however I can get it done. But do you feel worse if you don't play CJ Stroud and he has a decent game, or I'm taking a chance on one of these guys and they put an absolute clunker up, right? So look, there's a volatility. It's not like Minshew and Browning are two guys that we can 100% count on, right? There's the up and down. CJ Stroud, even though he has really, less body work than Minshew, definitely has more body work than Browning. Like, there are some ways he can put up some points, right? Brevin Jordan in the middle of the field. They give up a lot to the tight end and a lot of things like that. So CJ Stroud also can run a little bit when needed. I know he's not a big runner, so that's what you have to consider. I think it all comes down. Do you think the Colts Bengals game is going to be high scoring a little bit, right? You want it back and forth, not just about Zack Moss and Joe Mixon. So, look, I don't think those are bad plays, but I think, if you've been trusting Stroud all year long to go in that direction, it's really tough for me. Same thing with Justin Herbert. Even after a clunker game like that, I mean, I don't know where else you're going to go to have a quarterback with upside, right? So I guess this is the way to put it. If you just need some points to get through and you're okay and seeding may not be the line too much, or you're in the playoffs, just put in a safer play, right? I think there's a little bit of volatility, but there's also the upside there with Stroud in a tougher matchup.
Yeah, and maybe Josh Dobbs is a guy you go with and you feel a little bit safer with his rushing. But Justin Fields, we both have him as a starter this week. Both have him at quarterback 8. So we like him more than Herbert and Stroud and Goff and guys like that. But yeah, especially also with Stroud, we didn't bring up Tank Dell, is going to be
Yeah,
out.
he's
We
out.
don't know if that's going to hurt him as well. But we'll talk about the Houston wide receivers on tomorrow's show.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how we rank these receivers. A few injury issues to consider as well, and we've already factored them a little bit with our quarterback rankings. But we'll look directly at the wide receivers and tight ends that are going to be available to you, minus the Commanders and Cardinals there for you on the next show. So maybe some of these guys are a little bit higher than usual with Sam Howell and Kyler Murray on a bye as well. So keep that in mind. So there's your look at your running back and quarterback rankings for week 14. We'll come back again with wide receivers and tight ends tomorrow. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer.
And I'm Michelle Magdziuk. Bye, y'all.